Hello everyone, my name is Samantha and today I am going to be showing you how to make a healthier version of Polish Golabki. So Polish Golabki is essentially a cabbage roll, which means that it is comprised of boiled cabbage leaves filled with some sort of a savory stuffing, usually minced beef, which is high in fat, white rice, and onions. While there are some variations of this classic dish, this particular one appears to be the most common staple recipe. Although this dish itself can be found in a variety of Eastern European countries, for the sake of this video we are going to be considering it Polish because Polish Golabki does appear very commonly in Polish cuisine. So like I mentioned earlier, the whole point of this video is to make Polish Golabki a bit healthier. So to do that, I'm going to be swapping out some ingredients for healthier ingredients. One of the first things I'm going to swap out is I will be using tri-colored quinoa instead of white rice. And there's a couple of reasons for this, the first of which is that quinoa has more fiber because it is less processed. In addition, because it is less processed, quinoa is actually a lot higher in many nutrients, including iron, magnesium, zinc, selenium, calcium, just to name a few. And then finally, quinoa actually has nearly double the protein as white rice and is also considered a complete protein as well. The second healthy swap that I will be using is I will be using lean ground turkey instead of minced beef. Minced beef is really high in saturated fat and cholesterol, which is why I'm choosing to use ground turkey instead. And the best thing to do for the ground turkey is to choose the leanest meat as well. In addition, I'm avoiding red meat in the form of minced beef because red meat has been linked to a variety of cancers, including gastric cancer, colorectal cancer, stomach cancer, to name a few. Finally, I will also be adding more vegetables to this dish. I did notice in a lot of traditional recipes that onions are usually included, so I am keeping those, but I am also adding mushrooms, tomato sauce with no sodium, and heart-healthy olive oil instead of butter, which is high in sodium. Now the reason I'm trying to limit sodium is because sodium is linked to a lot of negative health impacts, especially hypertension and heart disease, so that is the main thing that I will be focusing on in this video. So I did mention that the main purpose of this video is for me to use less sodium in making Polish Golabki. Now the reason why eating a low sodium diet matters is because high sodium in the diet is linked to high blood pressure, also known as hypertension. Now over time, hypertension can result in a multitude of serious health effects, including but not limited to heart disease, stroke, heart attack, and even heart failure. Now the best way to avoid these is by using a low salt diet. And you can lower your salt intake by cooking from home rather than eating out or eating fast food, and also by choosing ingredients with the label low sodium. Now I'm doing both of those tricks in this video. I am cooking from home, and in addition, I am only using a very, very small amount of sodium, 1 teaspoon, for 6 to 8 servings. And in addition, I'm using low sodium ingredients, including both the tomato sauce and the olive oil, rather than using butter, which is known to be high in sodium as well as fat. Finally, really quickly, I'm going to go over the benefits of why I added more vegetables. So mushrooms in particular are a great source of vitamin D. It's actually one of the only non-animal sources and non-sun related sources of vitamin D, which is great. And they are also a great source of selenium, which is a wonderful antioxidant. I'm also using onions, which also contain antioxidants to fight inflammation. And also, onions include a wide variety of other nutrients, including potassium, B vitamins, etc. And finally, tomatoes. Yes, even tomato sauce counts when you choose the right sauce. Tomatoes include an antioxidant called lycopene, which is also a wonderful antagonist to free radicals, which reduces inflammation and helps your immune system function. And also tomatoes include a good source of folate, vitamin K, and more. Alright, so now that we know what we're doing today, let's get started. So just for the sake of the recipe, these are the ingredients I will be using today. So I will be using tri-colored quinoa, mushrooms, lean ground turkey, cabbage, of course for the cabbage rolls, onion, garlic, low sodium, tomato sauce, olive oil, salt, and pepper. Also, while you're at it, preheat the oven to 350 degrees. I will be also adding a few spices, and the wonderful thing about spices is that they're a great way to add some flavor without adding salt. So I used 1 tablespoon of smoked paprika, 1 tablespoon of oregano leaves, and then a dash of ground cayenne pepper for some spice. So for the very first step, you're going to want to get a very nice large cabbage. 3 pounds usually will suffice for 6 to 8 servings. So if you want fewer servings, use a smaller cabbage. Or if you can't find a large enough cabbage, you are welcome to use 2 smaller ones as well. After determining what cabbage you are going to use, set aside a large pot of water and get it to a rolling boil. And definitely make sure that that pot with the boiling water is large enough to fit your entire cabbage. Alright, for the third step, you are going to want to core the cabbage. And the purpose of coring the cabbage is that when you place it in the boiling water that you have set aside already, that water has access to the cabbage's inner leaves. That way they are not too hard to roll into a cabbage roll. So how you core the cabbage is you flip the cabbage upside down and you will notice the hard circular core. Using a non-serrated knife, cut an outer circle around the circular core until that core pops out. Now this can be a little challenging, so it doesn't need to be pretty. Essentially, like I said, you just want to make sure that that core is out so the water has access to the inner leaves. Alright, at this point your large pot of water should be boiling, so what you're going to do next is you're going to place that entire cabbage without the core side down, into the boiling pot of water. Cover and let the cabbage boil for 10 to 14 minutes depending on the size of your cabbage. Now I had a pretty hefty cabbage, so I boiled mine for 13 minutes, but just use your discretion in determining how long to boil it. Meanwhile, while the cabbage is boiling for 10 to 14 minutes, grab a cutting board, a knife, and a medium-sized onion. I chose a white onion because it's what I had in my fridge. However, I bet a red onion would taste just as good. So you're going to want to cut up about a cup of white onion, and after you're done doing so, make room for some minced garlic. I did pre-minced garlic just because it's more convenient, and I used about 2 tablespoons of garlic because I like it a lot, but you can use less if that's what you prefer. After chopping up the onion and getting some garlic, you're going to chop up about a 1/4 cup to 3/4 cup of mushrooms. I did them pretty finely chopped. And then after that, you're going to combine the mushrooms, onions, and garlic in a saucepan over medium heat. And I added about a tablespoon of olive oil for healthy omega-3 fatty acids. And basically, you're going to cook that over medium heat for about 3 to 5 minutes until brown. At this point, the cabbage should be done boiling, so I like to use 2 forks and just stick it in the cabbage to take it out of the boiling water so that you don't have to touch it and burn your fingers. And at that point, I like to put it on a baking sheet with some paper towels to let it cool down. And after it cools down for a few minutes, you'll notice that you can start easily peeling the leaves off from the top. Now at this point, do not get rid of the water that you boiled the cabbage in, just in case some of the inner leaves are still hard. That way you can throw the cabbage in and boil it for a few more minutes if necessary. Alright, now it's time for my favorite part, which is the filling. So what you want to do is you want to grab a large bowl and mix the following ingredients together very well. So you want to grab the mushroom, onion, garlic mixture first from earlier, then a 1/2 cup of the tri-colored quinoa, 1 tablespoon of black pepper, 1 teaspoon of salt. Remember, we do not want a lot of salt in this recipe. 1 tablespoon smoked paprika, 1 tablespoon oregano leaves, a dash of ground cayenne pepper for spice, an 8-ounce can of, remember, low sodium tomato sauce, and then finally 1 pound of lean ground turkey instead of minced beef. Alright, now rolling a Polish Golabki can actually be quite difficult if you've never done it before. So the first step is that you want to cut off the hard rib of the leaf, which is essentially just a vertical, thick part of the leaf. It comes off quite easily with a knife, and then you want to place the mixture right in the center of the leaf towards the smaller bottom. And then essentially you just fold in the sides and then the top. It doesn't need to be pretty as long as everything is pretty well secure. Now at this point, your cabbage rolls should look a little something like this on the baking sheet that you have. As you can see, mine aren't perfect, so it is okay if yours aren't either. And then basically what you're going to want to do is pour 1 cup of water with any tomato sauce left over mixed into it over all of the cabbage rolls. That way the cabbage rolls have some liquid to cook in while they're in the oven. After pouring the liquid all over the cabbage rolls, we're going to place that baking sheet in the oven for 60 to 75 minutes at 350 degrees. Now when it's done, make sure that the inner temperature of the cabbage roll is at least 165 degrees Fahrenheit. Food safety tip. Alright, so now you're done. You've made these wonderful cabbage rolls. Now at this point, a lot of people like to put some sauerkraut or similar things on top of it. We are not going to be doing that because it is high in sodium. Instead, I am going to be leaving it as is and serving with perhaps a side of broccoli or green beans. Well, I just wanted to say thank you for watching. Hopefully you enjoy your yummy cabbage rolls.